I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, January the 10th, brought to you in part by a new sponsor, proud to have on Endovac Beef. Endovac Beef with Immune Plus provides broad spectrum, gram-negative bacterial protection for your herd. Endovac protects against Pasteurella, Mannheimia, E. coli, and Salmonella for over 40 years. For more information, go to endovacanimalhealth.com. Storms are bullish, right? And you guys are thinking, what are you talking about, bullish? There's nothing good about a storm. Well, it's long been an old saying that the fat cattle market loves a storm. And nobody taking care of them loves the storm. The cattle don't love the storm. But many times the market does love a storm. It sucks weight off the cattle. Now that's not great for the cattle feeder, but it a lot of times brings your packers to their milk a little bit quicker because when those cattle are losing weight, they're losing tonnage on what they're buying, and they don't want to get in a short bought position. But we can't forget that the feedlot performance has been outstanding for the recent memory, all the way back to the point where it was really, really hot. Once our hot summer kind of subsided and we got into the fall, and so far this winter, feedlot performance has been out of this world. It's just been excellent, and the cattle have been gaining their heads off. So this is the first time we're starting to see some miserable storms coming in, some blizzard type conditions where the cattle are standing up in a ball and they're not gaining. And then now some really frigid temperatures are on the horizon, and cattle don't mind the cold, but it does take some of the energy or some of the corn that they've been eating to keep them warm. So you know, it's not a bullish thing, but a lot of times it's bullish for the market. Even though our production has been cut back a bunch this week, only 94,000 were scheduled to be slaughtered on Tuesday, with a lot of those early shifts down in southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, had to be cut back. You know, a lot of the roads were closed in that area, and the guys in the northern plains are thinking, you know, what's wrong with you? You guys didn't get maybe 5 inches of snow. Yeah, it was blowing snow though, and it was drifting type snow. And I think for the Oklahoma Panhandle, they have 2 road graders, and they're like pre-1980 road graders to try to clear the road. So they're just not set up like you guys in Iowa and Nebraska and places like that to get the roads cleared and get back to business. But we're thinking that probably here on Wednesday we'll have a full gamut of cattle harvest. Don't know any place that's going to be pulled back still on Wednesday, so we should get back underway, and they'll probably turn the chain speeds up a little bit and try to recover some. But maybe this storm will enable your packers to convince beef buyers that they need to pay a little more. Packers have been having a really hard time getting these cutout values up, and not sure what the deal is. I guess, you know, it's like anything else in the negotiation. They have to convince them that there's a reason why they should pay more for the beef, and maybe these wholesale beef buyers have learned how to tell when packers are lying. It's when their lips are moving. Like your cattle people have figured that out, but they've got a little more leverage in the trade. The packers don't necessarily know how much product they have. They know they've been using it, and they know that they need to get some, but they've just been holding them off. They haven't been running a lot of beef specials, and they've just been holding off the big prices on the cutouts. And just because cattle are high doesn't convince these end users that they need to pay more for the box beef cutout values. They can raise the prices on their customers in the restaurants and in the supermarkets, and then try to keep some of that middle money, which has always been the packers' idea of how to make money the best way too. But as far as feeder cattle and calves, the storm has not been bullish for them, not in the short term on calves for sure. as you know, guys have been having quite a bit of trouble with calves here this fall. Now they're starting to get through that. They're starting to get most of those cattle straightened up. I've seen a lot of cattle turned out on wheat. When I went through Oklahoma this past weekend, it looked like the wheat could sure use a drink and maybe a little cover of snow. That's the best thing. That's like an incubator for wheat if they can get some snow on there. But the snow, for the most part, in the southern plains was that dry snow, you know, like a dishwasher detergent just blowing around and stacking up everywhere, and probably not the kind that's going to lend much moisture there. But these really cold temperatures that are starting to you know, weak or peer their head up a little bit, and we're thinking maybe this weekend's going to get really cold in some hard red winter wheat country. That'll actually cause that wheat to kind of suck back in the ground and go dormant again, and so that's not going to be good for a calf demand. But there's a lot of people that have a lot of cheap feed on hand, and they would like to buy some calves, and they're looking out at those target prices on the LRPs, and they think, you know, I could buy some of these calves, lock them in, put some cheap gain on them on this silage or some stockpiled hay or something that I have, even if I don't have a lot of wheat, and I can make some money on those cattle. And your cattle feeders, buying the cattle going right into the feedlot, they're not real aggressive. Now, they were real aggressive in those first sales after the holiday because they kind of got out of sync and they had some pins they needed to fill. They did that very aggressively in those first sales that we had coming back after Christmas, but now kind of backing off a little bit. Feedlot conditions are a mess. I talked to guys in Nebraska and in Kansas. They're just a mess right now. And to tell you the truth, most of those feedlot guys will be happier when the conditions get really cold and stay really cold. Now, they won't do that in Kansas. It'll get cold and then it'll warm back up. But you get up in Nebraska and South Dakota and Iowa and places like that, when it gets cold and stays cold, that's the best conditions to feed cattle in. The lots get hard. Sometimes it's hard for the cattle to maneuver around and hurts their feet a little bit. But tell you what, when I was backgrounded cattle in northwest Missouri, it sounds crazy, but when the temperatures would get in the mid to high 20s and just stay there, it was such a relief, because you could kick your mud boots off, go out there in your Sunday best boots and feed, and just walk on the hard ground or the hard manure out there, and it would be a lot easier to take care of those cattle. And your northern feedlots are looking forward to that. Southern Plains feedlots might get that a little bit over the weekend, but then it's going to get sloppy again whenever it warms up. But let's talk about your board on Tuesday. February live cattle futures were up 82 cents. The fat cattle market loves a storm at 170.77. April was up 57 cents at 173.60. Your back months on live cattle futures were mixed, from down 32 to up 42, but nothing too big. Feeder cattle for January down 10 cents, 223.77. March feeder cattle down 20 at 224.87. Your back months were mixed, from down 40 to up 70, but a pretty quiet day in the cattle pits as a general rule. March corn futures, Chicago Board of Trade, were up 4 1/4 cents a bushel at 4.59 1/4. January beans were up 2 cents at 12.41 1/2. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March up 11 3/4 at 6.27. Fat cattle trade, not a hoof on a direct basis in the 5-area feeding region. I didn't have anything in Iowa, nothing in Nebraska, nothing in Kansas, nothing in Texas, nothing. You know, those guys are going through it right now, and they're not going to be excited when packers come to them and expect them to take less money. And likely they're not going to do it, and we're going to haggle around on the few guys that still sell cattle in a negotiated manner, and we probably won't see trade till late in the week. As your packers are going to say, hey, we've got cattle on the books that we hadn't been able to get into the plant, so you know, we're not going to really need cattle, when in fact, with the weight coming off of these cattle and them needing to fill their coffers after the holiday, they likely do really need to get the cattle in. and expect a big week of slaughter next week. But the only place we saw any fat cattle sales was in the best brick and mortar fat cattle auction we have in this country, and that's Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. Gary Marks wasn't able to get up there because it's a pretty good drive for him to get up there to the sale. So I talked to Greg Reichen. They had 1,500 head there at his sale. He said the market was steady to weak. They were down at least one buyer, and it was one of their major buyers that goes to a major plant there. He was kind of stuck in the snow somewhere and couldn't make it to the sale. Conventional cattle sold mostly from 170 to 173, and the program cattle, non-implanted or drug-free cattle, were mostly selling from 175 to 180.50. And like he said, with the quotes we had last week, that would have been mostly steady to weak. Box beef cutout values were higher, so maybe the packers have convinced the wholesale market that they need to get a little more for these cutouts. Choice cuts up 133 at 280.16. Selects up 347, and that choice select spread is narrowing every day at 260-283. Your slaughter, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, just very disappointing for Tuesday. Only 94,000, and that was estimated. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have to adjust that down like they did Mondays. They had to adjust it down. But so far for the week on estimates, 198,000 through the first 2 days of the week, and compared to the same week a year ago, that was a bunch less. That was about 57,000 less. So we need to sometime recover from that. Talk about what else is going on. Actually, I want to mention Lynn's Heritage Angus, and I've been telling you guys about that for the last several weeks. It's a big sale coming up in Byers, Oklahoma. It'll be on January the 18th. But did I mention that they have free delivery within a 500-mile radius? That'll cover most of you guys. But from Byers, Oklahoma, 500 miles in any direction, free delivery for the Lynn's Heritage Angus Bull Sale that's coming up on January the 18th. They're going to have 150 Angus bulls that are balanced, trait selected for functionality and cow power that will supply the meats. Kind of like the Arby's guy there. But get a hold of Ben, give him a call, see what he has to offer there and what his ideas are, or just go on to DVAuction.com, get on their online catalog. You can see pictures and videos and EPDs, do some shopping there. That sale is going to be broadcast on DVAuction.com on January the 18th. Now talk about what else is going on. Performance Livestock Analytics. Performance Beef Software is an app that is as easy to use as your cell phone. It will simplify your feeding, simplify your performance, and simplify your health records in one easy place. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Tuesday. That's based on an 800-pound, actually from 700 to 899 pounds, but average on the 800 pounds cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states. We're starting to build the receipts back up in there after your holiday shutdown. But your real-time index late in the day on Tuesday was sitting at 228.67. That was up 67 cents. So gained back almost everything that it lost on Monday. CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index, the latest to come out, was sitting at 229.02. That's what your LRP's cash in at, guys. Talk about your big sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri. They had 1,600 head come in through the ring, and another 723 through their in-house video they do with help from DVAuction. Now, doesn't that help them out with their receipts? The calves sold $3 to $6 lower, those that come through the sale ring there. And it was miserable over there too, even though they're in south central Missouri. It was miserable and cold. And people in the sale that were buying were mostly worried about what the conditions were out in the feedlots that they go to, and the growing yards, which are heavily in southwest Kansas, and things were not good over in southwest Kansas, which tells you why the market was cheaper, but $3 to $6 lower. Bigger feeder cattle were not well tested in West Plains. Your National Beef Wire stick out sale of the day was winter livestock in La Junta, Colorado. I still encourage you to watch John Campbell's videos, what he does. Mine won't be as entertaining, but I'm going to give you the market at La Junta. It was one of their stock show specials. $2 to $11 higher is what Market News called it for the most part. And look at this automated market report out of La Junta, and you'll see 301 head of 4-weight steer calves. They average 443 at 313.43. 294 head of 5-weight steer calves average 545 with a weighted average price of 275.69. 307 head of 6 weights average 655 at 244.93. And 295 head of 7-weight steers average 753 in La Junta, Colorado with a weighted average price of 233.97. Look at some heifers. How about 464 head of 4-weight heifer calves that average 454, weighted average price 253.25. 356 head of 5-weight heifer calves average 557 at 230.76. And 404 head of 6-weight heifers, La Junta, Colorado winter livestock, they average 648 with a weighted average price of 219.83. Impressive sale there, and conditions were not wonderful there either, but they don't complain near as much as us down here in the Southern Plains. Let's talk about your individual quotes from around. How about Farmers Stockyards? That's the latest location for bluegrass stockyards. It's in Flemingsburg, Kentucky. They sold 84 steers way out east, guys. They weighed 607 and bring 246.75. Makes you guys out here in the central part of the country think, what am I doing wrong? How about Glacial Lakes Livestock in Watertown, South Dakota? Sell 92 steers, weigh 618 at 290.25. Wow. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of North Platte Stockyards in North Platte, Nebraska. That's being run by Jay Nordhausen and the Ogallala crew there. Had a really good sale on Tuesday, including 80 head of 503-pound steer calves. They bring 336.100. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.
I was involved with the Beef Improvement Federation and developed a really good relationship with Dr. Bonnie Curley, who was at the University of Missouri. Dr. Curley is the one that really put me on in the back. We were at a meeting. Monty leans over and tells me, he says, hey, he says, that stuff, it really works, and it's not only good on salmonella, but it's also confers some feed efficiency. And so we added that to our protocol when we bring in feeder calves from these different people.